Welcome, everyone. This is Nichel Anderson. I'm your host for my podcast show, Surviving Your Journey Towards Success. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have a special guest, Emmanuel. He's from Ghana. He's joining me today. We're just going to have a conversation talking about his goals, his aspirations. He got some good news to share. So he's going to talk about that and talk about his mission, his purpose in life. So we kind of connected on Twitter, and he kind of reached out at that time. I decided to come, give him an idea that maybe you can come on my show and kind of talk about that, the journey, because we're all on that journey trying to get to a certain place. Sometimes we do reach those obstacles, and it's kind of hard to have hope or have a onset that it can get better because we've been in it for so long. So I do talk about that in my other podcast episode. So he's going to join me today. Thank you so much for that. And without further ado, I like to say a quick prayer when I start my show. So this one is going to go right in there and just say I'm thankful and grateful for the greater good that I am blessed with this opportunity to share and to encourage and motivate you while you're on your journey. So thank you so much for that. Let's go ahead and get started. So, Emmanuel, go ahead and introduce yourself for the audience for me.
All right, I'm Emmanuel Asare-Agyapong. I'm from West Africa, Ghana to be precise. And then I'm 30 years of age. And I hold Masters of Philosophy in Animal Science.
Wow. Yeah, so you said animal science, because I know that's how we kind of connect to do this interview. Can you kind of talk about that in a way of what's the primary objective in the sense of animal science and in your specialty that you want your career to be and what your focus is? How does that?
Okay. So basically, in the animal field, Africa is predominantly an agric continent, should I say. Mm-hmm. Most of us are into agriculture and all that. And so basically, when I say animal science, kind of broad, but I specialize in nutrition. Because, I realize, especially our ruminants and livestock in general, we have issues. Even we, the human beings in Africa, I'm sure it is known all over the world that, people from Africa are quite deprived in terms of what to eat and all that. So the same thing tends to go on the animals as well. So even sometimes the agro-industrial byproducts, we tend to compete with the animals for it and all that. So I decided to go to that area to make the animals be well fed and catered for well and all that. So I specialize in nutrition generally. That's about that.
So let's talk about that. So you're, like you're saying, you mentioned that animal science is very broad. It's a big platform, and your specialty within that universe, if we can say that, those listeners try to really connect to what your goal is, what your objective is, that you're looking for, where your interest is in the nutrition of the actual livestock itself. Now, you mentioned when you was communicating earlier, we was talking like over Twitter, what have actually thinking of taking the degree that and the experience that you got in a sense of finding the food that the animals need to be able to feed off, and therefore it'll help the cycle. Because I know you mentioned too, in Africa, there's a lot of, lack of resources or what have you. Is that what you're referring to when you talk about nutrition? Go ahead, if you can break that down.
Okay, basically, so when I talk about nutrition, Africa, as I said earlier, is a deprived state. So some of the things that people in the Western land wouldn't want to feed on, over here we do. So we tend to compete with the animals. For instance, when you go to the mill, or even when you prepare porridge, there is a way we sieve the maize. The corn dough, we sieve it before preparing the maize, and the chaff of it. Some opinion leaders and some chiefs will have issues with you if you want to feed that chaff to the animal, but whereas some other parts of the country, they wouldn't use that chaff for anything. And even they wouldn't want to feed the animals with that chaff because they know the chaff is not really nutritious. But over here, people would want to rather use it, convert it into another food in our local parlance we call banku. You add some cassava dough to it and you stir it into balls and you get your stew or soup and you're good with it. So basically the animals are suffering. If they don't go over journey long miles to go and look for forages to graze on, most of our lands too are deserts, bare lands. So in turns, they lack that nutrition for that productivity. So some of us, the scientists and nutritionists, we come on board and then we use some of these agro-industrial byproducts. Bone meal, some of these things that the natives don't really have any use for. We convert it into useful products so that we will make the gains that we need. And some of these agro-industrial byproducts are also very nutritious, like the granite hulls, the protein content is high and all that. So basically that's what it's about. So I look for alternative means to give these animals the nutritious meal they deserve so that they can put on, we can get the production high, increase productivity.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, and I want to make sure, because I know that you're from Ghana, so I only can speak one language myself. So I'm very grateful that you can speak my language, American English. But I want to make sure that I understand. So, and also to make sure that the listeners are connecting the dots. So basically, the role of what a career and want to help your country, which I think is a wonderful gesture to do that, because I know it's hard work, especially not only with studies, to try to solve the problem. So for the animals that you mentioned itself, you mentioned the word, it sounds like that word that you was referencing. What does that mean? Is that some type of food product that you're saying?
Yeah. Corn chaff. CHAFF.
Oh, okay.
Chaff.
And that means some type of food that normally you was trying to explain that's basically a food that's been given to the. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a kind of food. When you grind a corn,
okay,
or otherwise maize, when you grind it, there will still be particles in it. And over here, if we want to prepare, is it porridge or poodles? I don't know, the Westerners, I think they call it poodle. You have to sieve this ground maize or corn. You sieve it before you use the fine particles to prepare the poodle or the porridge. And then after you sieve, what is left behind, the coarse part of what the ground corn. Yes, that's what you term as chaff.
Oh, okay.
And if you don't take care and you want to use that chaff to feed your animals, and an opinion leader or a chief gets to know that you are using your chaff to feed your animals, he may be very furious about that, and it will end you in a great trouble. So we use crop residues.
In which crop? That's what you mean. In which, meaning more nutrient dense type crops, or
after the farming season, when the farmer harvests all his produce. For instance, the farmer who goes into groundnut cultivation, after uprooting the groundnuts and taking away the pods, then we go for the hulls, that's the vine and the leaves, and then we air dry it. We normally don't dry it on the shade because groundnut contains a lot of protein, and then when the sun shine over here can be very critical, especially where it's very close to the sub-Sahara Africa. We have the deserts, and all that. So the sun can be very scorchy. And so if you dry some of these products in the sun, protein normally denatures around a temperature of 60 and above. And if you don't take it, you end up losing all the nutrient benefits of that hulls, and you feed it to the animals, and they wouldn't be putting on the weight you want, and wouldn't be producing as you want. So we air dry it, and before we chop, and then we try to get them with something nutritious that can as well increase productivity. So basically, that's what it's about.
So in your studies as a scientist is to understand that whole cycle of what's needed to produce the right feed, the right nutritional value that the animals are eating. Because as you mentioned, in Africa, there's so many in the sense of trying to manage that. Is it mostly on your side, on the west side of Africa, where there's a major problem of the unbalance with, or you think it's all over basically of Africa?
I think it's all over, but basically for West Africa, I know much. It's really, I know much about West Africa, and it's very serious because, and also rainfall pattern is just, one cycle. So once the rains is done, the rest we have the, lean season or the dry season throughout. So the animals is suffer so much. So there is kind of cyclical weight gain and weight loss, in the sense that when we are in the rainy season, there is abundance of feed and forages for the animals to graze on. But immediately we get to the dry season, then they tend to emaciate, they tend to lose weight. You'll be seeing them lanky, very bony and all that. And it doesn't pertain to only the animals. Sometimes
that can produce disease, right? That can produce diseases.
Yes. Nutrition is very good to, take care of a lot of diseases. So if you are not giving the animal the right feed, it's not getting the right nutrients, it can develop a lot of diseases.
Let me ask you this right quick. How many vegetarians is in Africa compared to meat eaters? I'm just going to go there right quick. I'm curious.
Vegetarian?
Yes.
No, that would be very low. I think
really?
Maybe it's yes, probably we will have a few Rastafarians and maybe they are vegans. But anyways, I must say my dad is retired. He served in the army and he's retired, and I believe for health wise, he also for a long time has decided not to be taking meat products.
So he's a vegan.
Yeah, he's a vegan. He visited me today.
Oh, bless his heart. Tell him I said hi from the United States.
Okay, I'll tell him. I even told him about the interview.
Yeah, you're like, who's that? I just say hi. So that's interesting. So in a way, because I know I myself have just kind of had to lean off of meats, particularly here in the United States, but I was definitely a meat eater earlier. A lot of us are. So I can understand the transition of, leaning off the meat or what have you. But at the end of the day, people still, use that as a way of choice of eating. So if the animals that if they choose to do that or what have you, if they're sick and diseased or what have you, that can affect the person itself that is eating that. So it's like a circle in a sense. I don't know if I'm piecing it together in that way. That's another aspect to it, to be able to understand from the beginning what is more nutrient rich, more profound to feed the animals in a way that is in the right. And then of course, on top of the different seasons that they might need, depending on the season of the year, because if people are eating that much meat there, it can impact them health-wise. Has that been brought up in your studies and your understanding with other scientists or?
Oh, yes. Other scientists will raise that, they will raise those concerns. Yes, other scientists do. Some of us are also very measured when it comes to meat products and animal products in general. We know more taking too much eggs may, increase your cholesterol level and all those. We know those, implications with the health. Yes, but it looks like some scientists dwell on that, especially the medical students, they dwell more on that. But me being fine, I also do advise if there are some diseases that are zoonotic, can be transferred from animal to human and human to animal and all that. So and even I did some internship with the abattoir. I must say my VC, the VC of the university I attended, Professor Gabriel Ayum, he was a past student. He is the past student of Alberta University, I think in UK. Yes, he is more into meat science and animal welfare. So often than not, yes, he would send us to go to the abattoir in Tamale, and to be frank, the way, and I watched some of your videos, the way things are done in the Western world, the Europeans, the abattoir, the way you hang the animal, that's not the right thing. I've learned about it in the books. But when you go to the field, you don't see what you read in the books. At
How do
times,
you think you
butcher,
can change it? When we were talking, on Twitter, what are your main objective that you want to see change, and you want to be able to get that opportunity to do that? What do you want to
we can only announce our displeasure as of now. I don't hold any key position to say enact a law in the parliament or something. But as of now, we can only do through our research, keep on advising them that, hey, this is bad. At times you see some animal which the veterinarian in the abattoir doesn't want to approve, wants to condemn the animal, but it doesn't go anywhere. He doesn't know who to report to. Even when he goes to report, it doesn't really go anywhere. So it is quite sad. I think me per se, it's only the little I can do is conduct more research, try to give them my findings, and let them know this is very bad. And if only I had the resources, probably maybe I'll build a standard abattoir where all the procedures are respected. The animal should rest in the lairage for a while before it is conveyed to the slaughter hall. It should be stand. Often over here, standing is not done. The animal is not, in my university, and we were observing all those things because of the exposure that VC had in UK, because he was a product over there. He went to school there and he did more about meat science and welfare. So yes, those things he is also trying his best to address, but it's not enough. I think it should be a national agenda.
So basically the objective for your studies is to make the whole process, because it is what it is, like you say, in your country, that includes the overall process of animals, even if they're for food or what have you, to make a standard process that is of nutrient observant of what the animals need, to be more manageable of the animals that are there, and that it's not just like a fast process and then it's off to whatever, and then people are consuming it, what have you. I guess that's what you're trying to say. But at the end of the day, it should be a more straightforward, fair, standard process that on a scientific level, that cycle process for those that are still at the other end of it, intaking that or what have you. I think that's basically what you're saying. Then we have some aspects that are not following that. And so it's kind of that disconnect. So then that's where you see the animals are not getting the nutrient-based food or ingredients that they would need. So it's particular with the different seasons. And then also, I think you said somebody was a meat surgeon or specialist or what have you. At the end of the day, they are scientists, because it does seem like some type of technical type and science too and research that are constantly will be needed to be able to see the progression of it over time, because something has to, you would think, have to improve for everybody that's involved in that particular industry. Now, I know that you mentioned that you was looking for, trying to get an opportunity so you can be, like you're saying, continue to do your research, continue to offer your perspective. Could you share with the audience exactly what opportunities that you recently received? And I know you're still saying that you're waiting for it to all to come into play, but can you share that as well? You had let me know that you got an offer.
Well, basically, recently I received an offer from the government of Ghana to be an assistant agricultural officer. And so basically our duties are, in Africa, our rural areas is more populated and most of them are engaged in agriculture. So basically the government is recruiting some of us who have the know-how, technical know-how, to enter into these villages and to be training the farmers there. Even though we don't have most of them doing it on a larger scale, commercial, huge. You watch on telly and you see one American man having about, lots of acres of land for just maize and all that. We don't have those kind of things here, but the subsistence farmers, we go to them. Some are also into commercial production. And then we give them the new technologies and then the training and better way to, increase their yield. So basically, it's centered. Even though I'm an animal person, I'm veering into the crop sector now because I must be frank. The government's focus is more on the crops than the animals. They don't really. When it comes to the animals, I think they give just a little attention to the poultry industry. Aside that, no other, industry has that benefit. So even though I'm trained and I'm a specialist in animal nutritionist, I'm now going to the crops field, and that wouldn't be a problem because during my undergrads I did most of these crop courses and all that, even though I didn't specialize in that. So, and I know, you do learn on the job, so I'm going to pick up and all that. Yes. So basically, that's about that.
Okay. And so basically, you should be starting soon, or just basically you at least got an opportunity, right, to that employment offer, right?
Yes, I've had them.
So that's good. Sometimes you have to wait a while, but and then once you get into a particular place, you never know how your influence can be the one that can change the processes of how things are run. Sometimes it does seem like kind of really hard because, you're coming, initially into an organization and you might not think that you can put your input that someone will listen. But I think data and information is always key. So how you frame it and how you present the resolution, if it's implemented, can be powerful. And I think it's a great opportunity that they reached out to you after we were talking on Twitter live there, and to be able to see what you can do. So I just gather all my notes and be ready. And I did like how you said you did have that right objective when you had said, I'm just going to do the best I can. I'm rephrasing what you said, but you basically were saying that, I'm leading into this other aspect of what my knowledge and my degrees are in, and just do my research. So that basically you're saying you're going to keep going.
Yeah, I'm going.
Right. I agree. That's what you have to do, even though you don't see the end game. And what I was trying to say earlier about, people and how all this can connect, to people in the sense of health-wise, for both the animals and humans, like you just mentioned, certain things that can transit between the two. It is important because everybody's on a different path, a different journey, and those that's in part of this industry, the poultry industry, and partake in that is impacted. So we do need scientists, we do need nutritionists, we do need on every aspect, even from the beginning, from the grazing and the seeds or the food that the animals eat and so forth. We need that, and we need research because research provides the data and data provide the opportunity to decide. And before we wrap up today, this is actually going to be airing on my February month. And you mentioned books, but what type of books can you recommend for anybody that want to read up on this type of topic or this type of concerns? Any books you can reference or literature thing that they can read up on? What do you suggest and recommend?
Oh, okay. So basically,
put you on the spot.
Yeah, I think first of all, I have to recommend my own current research work that I did. Effects of different yes. You can find it online. I think I also have the link, but I don't know how best. Maybe I'll share with you later. But I'm sure if okay.
You can give that to my link afterwards, and I'll paste it in the description. So, what's the name of your research?
So basically, because I'm a nutritionist, I delve into nutritional effect of different varieties of groundnut hulls on digestibility and growth performance of sheep. And there's a type of sheep in Africa we call it Jalonki sheep. It's a dwarf sheep. So I did that on it because where I schooled in the northern part of Ghana, they are the leading producers of these granules. So the hulls comes in handy. We use it sometimes as supplementary diet to supplement the animals after they have gone to graze. They come and then we give them the horns because it's very nutritious, has high CP content. So I think I'll recommend that first, and then animal nutrition book. That one was written by, people from the Western world. Yeah. So the animal nutrition book too will be great. Aside that, I was also had started reading Henry Fayol, and because very soon maybe I may be managing my own farm. I was also reading The Rules of Management by Richard Templar. And yes, so I think anybody who wants to go my path, you do a bit of research, then you add how to manage. In case after research you want to establish your own farm, you ought to know how to manage your workers and all that. So
right.
Yes, I'm trying to broaden my scope and all that. Even though I was taught in school, but
right.
you need some of these published articles. Yes.
Right. Because that will provide other people to look into it more and to see your research and understand your thought and your position of what you're trying to convey. Right. And with that, you can empower and influence a lot of people. So if anybody wants to get in contact with you, is it the best way through Twitter?
Yeah, I think basically because I say my phone will not, it doesn't really, I don't have enough memory on it. iPhone 6, 16 gig. And so,
oh my goodness. Are you on WhatsApp? Are you on WhatsApp?
Yes, I'm on WhatsApp.
Okay, so I definitely will leave your Twitter handle in the description for anybody who want to reach out to Emmanuel, and later you can give me your WhatsApp number and I'll put that in the description as well. I think you're a very nice, kind person from Ghana. He's very flexible in my schedule to be able to do this interview today. And before we wrap up, I'll give you the last word in the sense of, do you have any motivational quote? I always ask my guests, what type of motivational quote that you could give to someone that's listening? Because I know that you had obstacles because you wanted to kind of get an opportunity to work and to share your knowledge. You got all these degrees or what have you. And sometimes it feels hard, frustrated. And then you get an opportunity like you did right now, this job opportunity, and it'll happen. But in that middle time, it's hard to hold on when you don't see the progress because it can take a while. But as you can see, you can get out of the blue, you'll get that sunny star, what have you. What type of motivational quote you can share with the audience to kind of wrap up this interview today? It could be short.
So
positive motivational quote.
Great things comes to those who wait.
Oh, I love it.
I graduated in 2016.
Yes.
Yes, and it took a while. I waited, and now,
we're going to continue to send prayers for you, Emmanuel, that nothing but best things. I know your heart is in the right place. There's some trying to make the best of what you have to work with and what's the reality there where you're at, and one step at a time. And so by doing that, you want to try to provide the best of what you have to work with. So thank you so much for joining us today. And everybody, thank you for tuning in. This is Nichel Anderson. I really appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you in the next one.
Thank you for having me.
Great.